Ever wondered what might happen when neighborhood watch tactics go haywire and family loyalty sparks an electrifying standoff? Subscribe now, because this is a story you'll want to tell your grandkids about, where deception, revenge, and justice collide in a shocking twist you'll never see coming. I never imagined a normal Saturday afternoon unfolding into the kind of saga that ends up etched in family legend, but there I was, minding my own business in the backyard when I noticed something peculiar. Two men, clad not in real uniforms but in cheap knockoff police garb, scaling our rust-speckled fence with alarming stealth, and the blood that ran cold wasn't mine alone. My grandpa, who'd always seemed like a quiet old soul, sprang from his rocking chair on the porch with a fire in his eyes I'd never seen before. You see, this wasn't the first time. The homeowner association, notorious for its draconian rules and petty territorialism, had sent these imposters before, first with the flimsy excuse that they had reports of trespassers, then later with municipal complaints about our ancient tree, our chickens, and our rickety goat pen, all of which we dutifully addressed, only to have the WA turn around and reverse course, claiming the fixes didn't meet gated community aesthetic standards. That's when the fake cops started showing up, climbing our fence late at night, rummaging through our sheds, checking on supposedly dangerous equipment, all as though they had a lawful right, when really they were just delivering WA threats dressed in phony badges. The neighborhood whispered rumors that the WA board itself financed these masqueraders, desperate to force us out or scare us into compliance, because truth be told, our property didn't match their manicured lawns and faux colonial facades, and they hated it. And so here we were, two strangers in polyester uniforms hoisting themselves over our perimeter again, camera toting, clipboard brandishing, as if their pretend ruses might hold up if challenged. But my grandpa, 69 years old enough to remember better days, had stockpiled something behind the toolshed. Not weeds or feed or the fishing poles he never used anymore, but a homemade electrified gate wire to deliver a non-lethal but heart-jarring shock to anyone trying to breach his domain illegally. He'd concocted it in secret, using parts from his old tractor battery, some roadside salvage, and that stubborn streak of ingenuity that had once powered his late wife's greenhouse and now powered his resolve to defend his home. And now, as the faux cops began their climb, he flipped the switch, and the gate came alive with that familiar snap-crackle, like static ready to charge. The first climber yelped, a high-pitched squeal cutting through the air, and was catapulted backward off the fence, landing in a yard, or the remains of a yard, next door, where Mrs. Patel's begonias died with the shockwave. The second scampered away, off the other side, bewildered, palms pressed to his backside as if the electric sting followed him home. My heart pounded, not just with the fear of what might happen next, but with that primeval pride, like Grandpa had just roared in a silent but thunderous pushback at injustice. Neighbors started emerging from their homes, some in bathrobes, some nursing coffee, all staring as if they'd woken into a bizarre, surreal TV show, Fake Cops vs. Electric Old-Timer. But story doesn't end there, because the WA wasn't going to let this hiss and spark episode be the final word. Within 24 hours, they sent a letter, official-looking, stamped, typed, claiming Grandpa had used excessive and dangerous force, and threatened legal action unless we immediately remove all unauthorized electrical installations and allow a WA or municipal inspection. Even the postmark was suspiciously neat, as if printed in somebody's office, not by the Postal Service. So Grandpa did what you never expect from someone so nonviolent. He laughed, loud and incredulous, then decided to ramp up rather than retreat. He sent back a letter of his own, simple, terse: you send fake cops. I electrify. You sue. I prove self-defense, trespass, harassment. See you in court. Word leaked to the neighborhood social media group, where posts started flooding in, WA sending faux law enforcement. That's shady even by WA standards, wrote one neighbor. Others chimed in with gifs of shock waves and judge bench emojis. And then the twist. A few days later, the two guys dressed as cops showed up again. Not climbing, but standing at the gate with their backs turned. Groundskeepers with push mowers and leaf blowers instead of badges, wearing uniforms that were WA-issued landscaping crew outfits. They claimed they'd been misidentified by Grandpa's fence camera, apologized, and offered to make amends. Grandpa, leaning on his cane, tipped his old straw hat, and said nothing, watching them like a hawk. They mumbled something about replacing the begonias and fixing the damage. But the next day, 2 landscapers showed up again, and began clipping hedges on the HOA's terms, trespassing farther than they'd been invited, clipping not just the communal hedge but nibbling at our own border shrubs, our little wild lavender that had managed to bloom for years despite their aesthetic phobia. Grandpa waited until dusk, and then, using that same electrified gate rigged to a motion sensor, let it hum to full voltage, but this time he rewired the circuit with a harmless but thick puff of confetti powder and a flash of LED lights triggered before the mild jolt. The landscaper got spooked, jumped back, and the lavender shook petals like snow. Neighbors gasped. Word spread in the group. Whoever that grandpa is, he's an artist, electric peacekeeper. The HOA board freaked. They sent out an all-caps email blasting his continued harassment. But it was already too late. Local press got wind of the clash, captioning it, HOA vs. Grandpa. Battle of the Fake Cops and Electrified Justice, complete with lens flare photos of Grandpa shrugging beside his festive gate. Public sentiment swung. Comments under the article poured in. Finally some real resistance against Orwellian neighborhood tyranny. If only my HOA had a grandpa like that, we want his electrified gate plans. Leading to the greatest twist. Volunteers came forward, offering to help him build a community version, an artistically designed, shock of justice, installation that, instead of delivering real shocks, sprays harmless mist and confetti at intruders, meant to deter but delight, and funded entirely by crowdfunding campaigns under titles like, Power to the People and to Grandpa. The HOA, cornered, blinked. They rescinded the threats, held an emergency meeting, on Zoom, no less, where they tried to rebrand as, Community Liaison Council, promising to engage neighbors with open forums, water cooler chats, bake-offs, even adopting a lavender patch of their own. Grandpa agreed to take down the electrified rig, but only on the condition that it be replaced by a proper public art installation celebrating community togetherness, as long as it includes the wild lavender, so the HOA knows what real beauty looks like. They agreed. The hose down gate came down. A local artist painted murals on the gate and gatepost, electric bolts in bright blue, Grandpa's silhouette, a spray of lavender. At the unveiling, the same fake cop-styled props were on display mockingly in a glass case as HOA's attempts at intimidation, complete with a plaque. Fake badges don't trump real grit. The crowd cheered, cameras flashed, and Grandpa, in his worn suspenders and straw hat, got a standing ovation. His defiance had turned neighbor-on-neighbor conflict into something unifying. And as the final twist, during the ribbon cutting, a little kid from next door ran up and innocently asked, Grandpa, are the cops still fake now? Grandpa winked, untied the lavender bloom from his lapel, and said, No kiddo, those days are over, but the story sure isn't. Fight fair, stay wild, and always keep your fence, and your heart, guarded. And that, my friend, is why you should subscribe. You never know when peaceful resistance and a little creative spark, electrified or not, can turn the tide and bring people together.